My Chinese Business, Podcast 1. Hi there, I'm your host of My Chinese Business. My name is Sean. My Chinese name is Sha Wan, Sha Tan de Sha, Iwan de Wan. Let me introduce myself. From 2005 to 2007, I was living in Costa Rica. While I was living in Costa Rica, I had many friends that worked in call centers there. Now, the interesting thing was, these people that worked at the call centers, they're fluent in Spanish, fluent in English, but yet their bosses wanted them to start learning Chinese. So, they did. And many of them were telling me this. Well, it interested me. I mean, if you think about it, it does make sense. If you can speak English, Spanish, and Chinese, you can basically communicate with half the world. And it made me start thinking about my future. I want to do international business, and maybe learning Chinese would be perfect for me. So, in 2007, I went back to the States, worked a little while, and saved up some money. In February 2008, I moved to Beijing, China. I started off at a language university there, learning the language. And from there, I progressed. I tried starting some businesses. The first two I tried to start failed. But then, the third one I started with a Chinese partner is still in operation to today. It's been about 2 years now. Even though I am in the States right now, well, actually, I'm doing this podcast in Ireland because I'm taking a little mini vacation to Europe. But my partner's running it, and it's still successful. Now, when I went back to the States in March, the one thing that was happening to me was everyone was asking me questions about China. And most of these questions would be, hey, Sean, I was listening to the radio and I heard this. Or I just went to the library or bookstore and I read a book, or I saw a magazine article. What do you think? And you know what? Most of what people were asking me about, my answers were, no, that's not correct. That's wrong. That doesn't actually happen there. I'm sorry. And I started doing more research on my own and starting to realize a lot of the information out there about China is wrong. Not just bad, just wrong. And these are so-called experts on it. I mean, most of the websites I've visited, most of the articles there, to be honest, have just been rehashed. You know, I'm guessing it's to mostly get backlinks, you know, from people for marketing and that, to help their websites, help their blogs. But I was reading these articles and these magazines and the books, and the information out there I really think is pretty poor. So because of that, I decided to make MyChineseBusiness.com. And this website is to help educate Westerners who plan on either doing business in China, working, living, or traveling, or just want to know about the Chinese culture. Why do I think this is useful, though? Well, there's so much opportunity out there. China is now the second largest economy, and it's going to keep growing. Think of it this way. I was talking to someone about this a while back, and they were saying, wow, China's the second largest economy, standard of living there must be amazing, and I said no. Think of it like this. Right now, the average person in China makes about $3,000 US a year. That's really what it is. I mean, their economy is what, 1/3 the US, and their population is 4 or 5 times. So really, for them to have the same standard of living as us in the US right now, their economy is going to have to grow about 12 times. Pretty amazing, isn't that? So it would be hard for them in our lifetime for their standard of living to surpass us. I mean, their economy would basically have to be, you know, 4 or 5 times our present-day economy for them to even have anywhere near the standard of living. But, I mean, that's not going to happen either because it's a hierarchy society. All this stuff I'll go into in great detail in future podcasts and posts about the separation of wealth in China and the standard of living and everything. But back to the thing. My point of this is, even in the U.S., people want better lives. They want more toys. Well, in China, they definitely want this. And know people that would literally backstab their best friends growing up to get promotions in hopes that one day they would be able to have a high enough salary to be able to get their own room and apartment so their girlfriends could come and visit them, or their girlfriend could come and visit them. Sorry about that. I mean, can you imagine that, having your own room being enough to really backstab someone you grew up with? But there it happens. There's really a desire, I want to say, for growth. And I'll talk a lot about this in the future. But back to more information. So through these podcasts and through the website, the information you can get, I will hope that you'll never actually feel insecure about work or that in the future. Why is that? Because right now for Americans, there's so much opportunity in China. Just by having an American passport, you could teach English at almost any place there. Any place, actually. And there's more people in China that want to learn English than native English speakers in the world. Think about that. So right now, if you're unemployed in the States, and you knew this little fact about how to get a job in China teaching English, or how to get a job, doing many things in China. I know people in China that are actors, models. They have no qualifications. They're just Westerners. They just look the part. I know people in China that their job is to go to opening factory ceremonies, or this ceremony or that ceremony, just because they want a Westerner there in a business suit, for pictures, for the newspapers, for magazines to take pictures of them. I mean, that is pretty prestigious if you think about it. A small little town in the middle of nowhere, population only, 700,000, 900,000 people, a small little city, but yet this German and American supposedly flew in, basically they were on a train the night before, just from Beijing, to cut a ribbon and take some pictures. Well, the papers show these pictures, everyone in the town thinks, wow, the growth. It's pretty impressive, the things that go on there. But there's all these opportunities there. And then, as many people know, every product in the U.S. is imported from China. So why not actually learn how to import them yourself? Why not talk to trade representatives, trade companies and that in China? Well, okay, I know that part could be a little tough. But in the future podcasts and that, I'll be interviewing them. I mean, I know some people. I was there for so long that a lot of the people I would meet normally, that's their business. I mean, they have import-export businesses. So I know people that have these companies. And what I'd like is through this podcast and through the website for people to ask me questions if they would like to know any of these answers. Okay, so back to the thing. Right now, I want you to completely forget, or at least ignore a little bit, a lot of what you've heard on the radio and the news about China. Okay? I want to give you an uncensored version of what goes on there. I want to teach how to do business there, how to give red envelopes, little gifts here and there. I want to teach you the drinking culture for a business meal. I want to teach you karaoke, KTV, and all those things that actually are really needed to know in business society. Also, I want to teach traveling in Beijing, or not Beijing, traveling in China, how to find the best places to stay, how to go to the sites that aren't tourist traps that you should actually look out for, things that could be a little dangerous. But that's all that's going to be covered in future podcasts and websites. So basically, a general idea of China. So how is this information laid out? Well, most of the posts on MyChineseBusiness.com will have a podcast that goes with it. If you only want to listen to the podcast, that's fine. But I recommend visiting the website, signing up for the newsletter, signing up for the RSS feed and Facebook like and all that to always be on top of the information. And I'm going to provide the information in a way that I feel that will benefit the most people and in an order that you should learn. So for example, this podcast is just me introducing myself and talking a little bit about, who I am and why you should actually listen to me. But then the next podcast will be on arriving in Beijing, what you might discover, interesting things. From there, there'll be a post from where I talked to a Frenchman that had lived there for 13 years, and the things that he had discovered and feels that people should know about China. And after that will be more things about the custom, about censorship, things in China. And it will slowly work its way up to actual, when you're at a dinner, this is what you should say, this is what you should not say. If you're traveling, these are things you should be wary of, these are things that are okay. And to get into more specific areas. So if you'd like to know anything, a specific question, please go to my website, MyChineseBusiness.com, and leave a comment. And right now, I'm posting this podcast with 2 others that correlate to the posts that are already up on the website. So hope you enjoy, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to My Chinese Business Podcast, Episode 1. wary of, these are things that are okay. And to get into more specific areas. So if you'd like to know anything, a specific question, please go to my website, MyChineseBusiness.com, and leave a comment. And right now, I'm posting this podcast with 2 others that correlate to the posts that are already up on the website. So hope you enjoy, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to My Chinese Business Podcast, Episode 1.